Hey everybody, it is Dante Mason and you are listening to Paradimez. I'm your host and today I'm going to talk about the GM fiasco and the fact that they are leaving the United States. Why are these plants leaving the United States? And even though it's not in the headlines today, it's not just GM that is leaving, it's all types of other companies that aren't even necessarily just in the automotive industry. You know, companies from all kinds of other industries are fleeing the country. It's because of the feds. And by the feds, I'm not talking about the Federal Reserve. Yes, that has a part to do with it, but it's many variables. So we can't blame Trump. We can't point fingers at Trump. It really is the least to blame for the factories leaving and the job closures. This is something that started about a decade ago during the 2007-2008 financial collapse, the stock market crash. And it's been covered up. It has been covered up with debt and low interest rates and different things. It's like, well, we can't raise interest rates. It's like, well, you shouldn't have had them low for so long. You understand what I'm saying? And the subprime mortgage fiasco. So there's a lot of variables involved. I'm just gonna read through the headlines right here, right now. You got CNBC says ex-GM CEO factory closures are decided by the consumer, not the White House. So now they're playing semantics. They're playing politics. Oh, it's the consumer. Oh, it's the president. Oh, it's the Federal Reserve. Oh, it's the actual federal policies. It's pretty much a little bit of all of the above, a lot more so in the other things. Like I said, the president, you can't blame him for these manufacturing things leaving. He's not the one that controls, and it's not necessarily the interest rates. I know he brings up interest rates a whole lot. But from my perspective, I see that it's the 15% corporate tax we have here, which is one of the lowest in the world. However, the absolute lowest, well, it's not, we can't even say it's the lowest. It's just non-existent. It's zero. China, zero. China, zero. How is America supposed to compete with a federal tax, for federal corporate tax that's zero over in China? Even though we have the lowest, I mean, if you ask the average American, like if you owned a multi-million or even billion-dollar corporation, and especially manufacturing over here, and you have to pay 15% back to the government, and then you find out, hey, China says, hey, move over here and we'll allow you to do it basically for free, and you get to keep all your money, but you got to sell out your country. And that's what's basically going on here. Let's read some more of these headlines. The Hill, overnight energy. Trump rejects man-made climate change. UN report finds countries falling short. So the thing is, it's not man-made. If anything, the CO2 that is being emitted back into the atmosphere is a good thing, which he's probably even afraid to say something like that. You know, a lot of people that are public figures and in the limelight or the spotlight, they don't want to make those type of claims, even though it's scientifically proven that CO2 levels are at lower than they've ever been. We need the CO2 in order for there to be more greenery, you know, more trees to grow, and more abundance of vegetation and different things. You know, the less amount of CO2, the less amount of oxygen. The less amount of oxygen, it's going to come back and bite humanity in the rear end, or in the arse, the A-R-S-E, the arse. It's going to come back and bite us because, you know, that's supposed to be cleaning, even though it's a byproduct from us, the CO2. We're not the cause of it. You mean to tell me us little humans, the little oxygen and carbon dioxide that we're emitting back into the even driving our cars, they're like, oh, we're driving cars and flying planes. We need to figure out what's going on. I don't even think we have any control over it. So I agree with Trump that climate change is not man-made. If we don't have control over it, how are we supposed to put more into the environment? It's just like disappearing. It's like you got a ship and there's a hole in the ship, and it's just water is just flooding into the ship, and it's like, wait, so something's going out. It's like a leak. There's a leak going on with the climate, and we have no control over it. Because if we did, then we would be like, okay, let's put even more CO2 into the environment so we can make up for the depreciated levels. But we can't. Even we're already, and then there's a difference between toxicity that goes into the air versus just regular CO2. Like, you're burning some firewood. It's not a bad thing. Let's read some of these other. CNBC, Trump threatens to strip GM of tax credit. I would too. I would strip GM of the tax credit as well, because they got the bailout. They were the main ones with their hands out back in the 2008, 2009. You understand? And now they're leaving. It's like it's like they're like I was about to say pimps. Who gets pimped out? They're like the people getting pimped out. Some of these corporations, you know, the governments are like the pimps, and the corporations are like the prostitutes. So okay, go ahead and prostitute yourself out, GM, because after China is done using all of you, Apple, GM, all of y'all, after China's done using y'all, pimping y'all, where are y'all going next? There's nowhere else next to go. And is this a temporary thing? Can't you see the long-term ramifications? But they don't care about that. All they care about is short-term profits, greed, corporate profits, right? Forbes, straight out of Forbes. Who's to blame for the GM woes? Trump or the Fed? Again, it's a lot of variables. You can't blame Trump. I blame that 0% corporate tax rate over in China. But we can't even blame them. You know, they want to incentivize. Why don't we incentivize? But we can't do 0% over here. You know, and I'm not even sure if they're doing 0% on their own corporations, or is it just for the American corporations that decide to move over there, and they give them all these type of advantageous rates. So CBC News, this isn't what we're promised. Amid GM closure, Trump's economic policies are coming home. So of course this is not what we were promised. But again, how they try to put it back in the ball back in Trump's court or the president's court. It's not the president's fault. And again, we can't lower our corporate tax rate. If we could, that'd be great. But we can't. It's unsustainable. So China doing that is like, it's just a short-term thing. That little incentive that they granted these U.S. corporations, it's short-term. But that's all they care about. They don't care about all of the thousands of workers that are getting laid off, all of the homelessness that's going to come from out of this. They don't care about that. That's it. That's all I want to say on this little short report. And that's it. Today is November 28th, 2018. And thank you for listening to the Dante Mason channel. Actually, this isn't even on the Dante Mason channel. Paradimez, it's the same thing. Thank you for listening to Paradimez. If you want to support us, please go on over to paradimestore.com. We're going to be putting up all kinds of new products like the water filtration system, gravity fed, best brands, the air filtration system for your home, you know, up to 400 square feet. Not going into detail about that. We got the best essential oils, nutraceuticals, and health supplements. Go to paradimestore.com. Thank you for listening.